We come to the last Sunday in ordinary time, the fourth Sunday, also Christ the King Sunday, because next Sunday is the first Sunday of Advent. Yes, this is called the ordinary time, not because there is actually something ordinary about the time, but because there is no particular mystery of Jesus that we are focusing on. In Advent and Christmas, we prepare and focus on the birth of the Savior. During Lent and Easter, we focus on the suffering and death and resurrection of the Savior, that particular mystery through which He redeemed us or redeemed humanity from sin. But in ordinary time, we are not focusing on any particular mystery, but is presented to us as a time to live out eventually all that we have been learning throughout the year in the other mysteries of Jesus. So today, because it's the last Sunday, we have this eschatological dimension in the last parable of Jesus, casting our minds in the future of the criteria with which we'll be judged on the last day. Like I said, it's also the Christ the King Sunday. And looking at it, I was just asking myself, why all this? Why the last Sunday is actually designated as the Christ the King Sunday? And then it reminded me the reason with which Pope Pius XI inaugurated Christ the King. Because at the time, many leaders, many kings, many monarchs, many royalties were failing in their way of leading the people. And this was inaugurated as a way of presenting Jesus as the one who is actually the king of the universe. But first and foremost, he is the king in our hearts, the king in our lives, the king of kings. He's been presented so that we can use his own method. He's more a shepherd king, to use his own method of leadership as a guide for other leaders. And inaugurating this, the Pope says, while nations insult the beloved name of our Redeemer, we must all the more loudly proclaim his kingly dignity and power, and all the more universally affirm his rights. In other words, this feast of Christ the King becomes an antidote to misappropriation of power by kings, leaders, and of course, the world leaders, the political leaders. So it's not enough for us to apportion blames to the leaders of the world if we don't make efforts in our own little ways to also show that, yes, we imitate the examples, the virtues of Jesus Christ. Among the people of Israel, leaders were taken as representatives of God. Those that are given the responsibility of guiding the people, of leading the people, of always presenting them, taking care of them, taking care of the less privileged, taking care of everyone. But because these have failed, the priests, the prophets, the kings, and we don't forget these threefold ministry of Jesus as priest, as king, and of course as leader, as pastor. And that is why in the first reading, in the book of Ezekiel, God himself said, because these people have failed, I myself will now shepherd my people, Israel. Both the less privileged, the weak, the sick, the fat, the healthy, I will guard, I will protect, I will keep in my care. And this is also seen in the gospel, where in this last parable of Matthew, we are presented with the criterion for the last judgment. with what God is going to judge the people. When the Son of Man comes, when the King of Kings comes and sits on his throne, how he's going to judge the people. And one thing about this is that the criteria is something that is attainable, something that is within reach for everybody, not for the fact that we are Christians, but for the fact that we are human beings. Some weeks ago, some Sundays ago, we are presented with a summary of the entire commandment. In fact, not just its commandment, but its commandments and even the Beatitudes. And that is love, love of God and love of neighbor. And now in this parable, Jesus is basing the criteria for the final judgment on love, but not even love of God. Not how much we spend in the church, not how much we spend at prayer, not how much we spend in fasting in the desert, but how much we spend in coming to the aid of others that are in need. St. John of the Cross says that at the evening of our lives will be judged based on love. How much of love we have shown, how much of charity that we have shown to others. And that is why he said, there are many that I was hungry and he gave me to eat. I was thirsty and he gave me to drink. I was naked in prison. In fact, I was in need and you were sensitive to my situation and came to my help. This is what matters. How were we able to see Jesus in the needy? And in this as well, he says something. Jesus is in each one of us. And it reminds me of a story about a monastery that was having a conflict. And they went to a guru, a sage, to tell them what to do to be able to overcome the conflict and then live in love, live a life that is worthy of their profession, their vocation as monks. And this guru told them that what they have to do is that Jesus is in your midst. If you identify him and treat him as he deserves to be treated, then it will bring peace, reconciliation, and it will resolve the conflict. And when the emissaries, those that were sent, came back and told the community this, they started treating each one nicely because they didn't know which of them was Jesus. And because of that, everybody was then treated like a human being, and his dignity, his personality was upheld. And that bring peace, that bring harmony, that bring love, and that brought reconciliation among them. So this is what we are called to do. Jesus resides in each one of us. Jesus is in everyone, and whatever we do to each one of us, we are doing it to Jesus. So there are many that are still hungry, many that are still sick, many that are still naked, not for material food, not hungry for material food, but hungry for spiritual food. They are thirsty for peace, for justice, for mercy, for hope. They want to be recognized and related to as human beings. There are many that are naked, not just for lack of clothing, but also for lack of direction. Morally and spiritually, they have nobody to look up to, no one to guide them, no one to advise or encourage them. The list is endless. Have you been able to identify these people and then treat them nicely? The first set of people, the virtuous, asked, Lord, when did we see you hungry? When did we see you in need and came to your help? The same question that the second set asked. And he answered, insofar as he did it to the least of these, he did it to me. The first set of people, the virtuous, did not do this to people, did not help because they wanted some merit. They wanted to benefit from it. No, they helped because it was necessary to help. And of course, Mother Teresa of Calcutta said that All of us have been gifted differently to help. Nobody is so poor that he cannot give, and nobody is so rich that he cannot be given. Again, it is also said that the rich help the poor in this world by assisting them to have some material needs, to have some gifts. They give them material things to help them to become better. But in eternity, the poor help the rich. Because based on this charity that you have done, God certainly will reward you. And this reminds me of the words of St. Teresa of Avila when he says that in this world, in our world today, Jesus has no hand, no feet, no voice, no eyes, no ears. We are his hands with which he blesses the world, the feet with which he walks, the eyes with which he sees the needs of the world, the ears with which he hears the cry for help, and the voice with which he proclaims the good news and consoles the world. Let us therefore not be blind to the needs of the people, to the needs of the poor. Let us be sensitive to their needs and let us come to their aid. Let us remember, as Jesus has told us, whatever you do to the least of these little ones, you did it to me. But let us do them not because we want or because we desire to gain something at the end, but because it is nice, it is human, it is noble to help, to assist, to reach out to others. And of course, today, as we celebrate Christ the King, let us allow him to rule in our lives, in our souls, in our homes, in our world today, bringing peace, bringing reconciliation, bringing love and charity, and bringing harmony among men. Jesus is in our midst. Let us seek him in the poor.